Hello everybody, I'm back with the daily puzzle for advanced challenge. And this time we're actually back to puzzles. Alright, so this was the puzzle from the last puzzle video. This one was black to play and win, and let's see how black can do this. So black has a number of checks that we have to consider, and also a few threats and captures. So, what threats do you see? What threats, captures, and checks? Well, Queen takes f2 is both check and capture, and the same with Rook takes g2 and Queen takes h2. There's also Rook takes d5, Queen takes c1, and also Knight takes f2. And there's a few threats, which include Bishop g4, Queen f3, and Queen g4. Now let's have a look at all of them one by one. Alright, so Queen takes f2. Now if Queen takes f2, White simply has Queen takes Queen, and after Knight takes, Rook takes Rook, Bishop takes Rook, King takes Knight, and unfortunately for Black, this position isn't exactly what he wants. In fact, it's just an endgame where White is just better. Alright, so what if he plays Queen h2? Well, this is easy to answer. White just has King takes h2, and it is a free queen, unfortunately. Knight takes f2 is a similar story. After Rook takes, Queen takes is not actually the best move. Now, there's a trick in this position. If White plays Queen takes Queen, Black actually has Knight check, and he actually escapes with an extra piece. So, what's the trick? Well, if White plays Rook takes Rook, then after Bishop takes Rook, Queen takes Knight, well then you take the Rook. So the only way for White to actually win is Queen takes f2 immediately. And now the Rook on c1 is still defended, luckily for White. And White, in fact, is probably just better or it's equal. But Black is definitely not getting a checkmate. So that leaves us with Rook g2, Bishop h3, Queen f3, Rook takes d5, and Queen g4. But some of them are not so good. Rook takes d5 we can rule out because of Queen takes d5. This means we can rule out Rook takes d5. So, or probably even better is Bishop g5, but that's fine. So, how about Queen f3? Well, now White has Bishop f1. And Black is obviously still better because of his extra piece, but it's not checkmate. So that means Queen f3 is gone. And Bishop h3 is a similar story. Bishop f1, perhaps, is good enough, or g3 even. The point after Queen f3, you have Bishop f1. And White isn't mated just quite yet. Okay, so now Bishop h3. So there's two moves. If Queen g4, White saves himself with Bishop to f1. And unfortunately, there is no win for Black. So the correct answer is Rook takes g2. Now time to find out why. So there's three moves. If King f1, well then Rook takes f2. Check. Now Knight d2 is also an idea. However, this is not winning. This is winning for Black. For example, King g2, Queen f3 maybe, but the simplest is just to take the Queen. Okay, so Knight d2 wins, but it's not quite the best move. Rook g1. Well, he just takes the rook, and doesn't seem that was much of a help. Now, obviously, after rook g2, king f1, rook h2 is just taking a free pawn and is still easily winning. But that's not the most crushing and quickest way to win. Now, the most obvious move is the best. Rook takes f2. And what's the point? Well, if queen takes f2 is mate, and if king g1, queen h2 is simply checkmate. Black actually has a number of ways to check. However, queen h2 is the quickest. Alright, so that means king h1 is the other move. Now rook h2, rook h2, king g1, and black is still winning. But quickest way is simply queen h2. Even queen f3 is winning. Okay, so king g2, main variation. Now there's a few good looking moves, and the three best looking moves are queen g4, queen g5, and bishop to h3. Let's start with queen g5. If queen g5 after king h1, there's no checkmate. However, moves like bishop f3 do look pretty scary. Black probably move like queen f4 and just trying to go back to the other position. So, but it's not queen g5. Okay, so queen g4. Now the difference, if king h1, then you have moves like queen f3. And however, this is quite not winning because of this very good resource for white, which is the queen, which is bishop f1, and the queen is not going to checkmate. Now obviously black does have this if he really wants to. He can play knight g3 check, and after hg he can simply hg or fg he can simply take the queen. That is an option, but that's not the best option. So that leaves us with the correct answer in bishop to h3. Now after bishop to h3, which of these moves are going to save white? Well, the answer is none of them. Let's start with king h1. If king h1, black has a number of moves. Knight takes f2, queen f3, and knight g3. Now, let's see it, all of them. And there's also bishop g2, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyways, if bishop g2, white simply takes, and now black has to unfortunately settle. If here, then knight d2 or knight g3. Knight g3 doesn't even work because now you can't even take the queen, and this is actually losing. So the only option for black here is to play knight d2 and bail out and take a draw, which is obviously not something he is exactly thrilled about doing. Alright, so knight d2 is the only option to bail out. And if you place king here, well then queen f3, queen g4, and you repeat. But black, as I'm sure you've realized, is not exactly happy about this, as he's obviously trying to win. So that rules out bishop to g2. So what about knight takes f2? Well, this is actually losing, because now, if you take the queen, you get checkmated. And there's no other way to try and stop this. If here, then rook takes, and the same threat with rook to e8 checkmate is threatened, and white is going to win because black has nothing to do about it. Okay, so that means not knight takes f2. Knight g3, well, this is actually interesting. Now, if white plays fg, well then queen f3, king h1, king g1, and queen g2 is mate. But it's not the best. It's the best move after knight g3. But white doesn't have to do this. If hg, it's the same story. But white has the interesting resource of king g1. Now black saves himself and wins the game with knight e2. The point being, after rook takes, queen takes rook. And black is just winning. Because the point is, you're getting mated. This bishop, rook, bishop and queen are working well. Queen d1, and this is simply checkmate. white also has bishop takes, and after queen takes, black just simply wins. But obviously this is not checkmate, so not what black wants. So bishop h3 here. So we can rule out knight to g3. But remember how I showed you this line? Well, do we really need to give up the knight? Well, the answer is no. In fact, in this position, the only move is here. And now queen g2 is simply checkmate, and black obviously just simply wins. So that's how black checkmates. Rook g2, rook g2, bishop h3, king h1, queen f3, and black wins the game. Now I know some of these options that I showed you were simple, to get rid of, like rook d5, but it's always important to look at checks and captures, because sometimes first impressions are not great, and it applies in chess too. If you simply think, sometimes you might have not considered rook g2, it just looks like a free rook, right? But it's not. It's the move that wins you the game. So always look at checks, captures, and threats. Let's have a look at the puzzle for today. This one's white to play and win in a few moves. Good luck solving the puzzle, my friends, and if you're enjoying my videos, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell button until the next video. See everybody, and good luck solving the puzzle.